It's the Don McKay Show here on Radioonfire.com. Thank you for joining me. Of course, we're broadcasting from the Radio on Fire studios here in Baltimore, Maryland. I have two good brothers in the building with me. Please introduce yourself, sir.
Charles Neal.
All right.
And Kenny Ebron.
All right. How's it going?
Well.
It's going wonderful.
It's cold here.
Absolutely.
You know, and time is going to change this weekend. It don't feel like it.
Nah.
Maybe that will bring in some of the warm weather.
Yeah, we need that warm weather.
Yeah. So whenever I think about this time of year, the Pimlico Preakness comes to mind for me, and it appears that the end of an era is here. I think that this is the end of the Preakness in Baltimore. Mm-hmm. And, you know, what surprises me is that so many people embrace it and are sad and they're crying tears and, no, don't leave. We want the Preakness to stay. It was here when I was babies. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
how about that?
You know, and that thing, and some Park Heights residents were rallying outside of Pimlico, and I think that the mayor or her team probably bust some of them up to Annapolis to try to plead the case for the Preakness to stay in Baltimore. So let's start with you, Kenny. What are your thoughts on the Preakness? Its history in Baltimore, staying in Baltimore. Like, what do you think about it?
Yeah, it's been around since 1873, and I think it done reached its goal and ready to move forward. Yeah. And oftentimes we as people of Baltimore, we tend to want to hold on to a lot of things, even when it comes to the old buildings, you know, like don't knock it down. This building meant so much and things like that. But we're going into a new day and we're going into a new season, and some things have its season, have its time, and time to give up. And I just think that, you know, looking at the Park Heights community, the Pimlico community, and I did a video on it today, just going around the block or across the street from the Preakness and seeing a lot of these vacant houses that look like they've been there for the last 10, 15 years. Yeah. And so you're looking at 15 Preakness that went by and nothing went back into that community. We have so much that we need to be fighting for our children in our schools. Some of our schools have no air conditioners, no heating, short of school supplies. Teachers haven't seen a raise. We dealt with the issue at Douglas High School. Yeah. And all those folks that we've seen stand at the Pimlico track was worried about saving horses but not saving our children. Mm-hmm. The only benefits that folks in that community, poor folks in that community, gets out of the whole deal is that they rent out parking space to the customers who come in there to bet on horses or just to have a good time. Right. And for those folks to just make $20 a day off,
and that's it.
And that seems to be it. You know, it's no profit in it, and so for the mayor and that community to try to embrace the community to come out and support that issue when we have other issues that we need to tap in on.
Yeah, you mentioned the mayor. The mayor said that we have to save the Preakness. It belongs in Baltimore. It's part of our history, and we expect to keep it. That's what Mayor Pugh says. So what do you think about the Preakness in Baltimore?
Well, I mean, as Kenny indicated, you know, it goes back a long ways. You know, the only thing that I could say is that it does have history in the city of Baltimore. However, the big issue is that, you know, what has it done for the residents within the city of Baltimore? You know, when I look at the crime rate, when I look at the murder rate that has risen tremendously, and especially over the last few years as our children began to remove themselves from the front steps. You know, and as Kenny indicated, the only thing that any of them had benefited from up in that area was allowing them to park on their lawns. You know, I think, you know, what we have to do as a people, we have to learn how to get out of the party mindset. You know, we spend too much time wanting to or looking for a great time to sit back and want to party and enjoy the festivities of the Preakness and other things that go on within the city of Baltimore. But when it comes down to saving lives and saving the lives of the children of the city of Baltimore, that's where I draw the line. You know, I've never seen any money from the Preakness enter into the inner cities of the city of Baltimore. You know, we have a serious problem with that. Mm-hmm. The mindset that some of our elected officials have, and I'm not calling no names, but the mindset that some of the elected officials have, it has to be turned around. You know, they have to be, and I mentioned this before, just recently I talked about, just yesterday as a matter of fact, I talked about revolutionizing.
Right.
You know, we need to be revolutionized. Mm-hmm. Our minds need to be revolutionized. We need to think about something a little bit more concrete and long-lasting than just, you know, wanting to put bets on some horses and wanting to keep the Preakness here. Now, I mean, to each his own. That's what you value. That's what you value. But I believe that there are greater values within the city of Baltimore than just, wanting to keep the Preakness here.
Agreed. We were all talking about whether it benefited the Park Heights community or, I mean, when people come to go to the race, they're not staying in Park Heights. People that come from out of town.
Right.
They're not staying in Park Heights.
Yeah.
That's right.
They're staying downtown or Pikesville or some other area, maybe Owens Mills. I don't know. But another quote from the mayor, and I'm not trying to pick on the mayor, but I'm just saying another quote from the mayor. She said that we've got companies and corporations looking to invest in Baltimore. We've got African Americans and others who want to see this community thrive. And she was referencing the Park Heights community. But so, go ahead.
We never see the data on none of this.
Never.
None.
Or the evidence.
Yeah. We never. It's just a lot of talk. You know, it's like 15,000 children signed up for summer jobs. Camp. But we never see the data of anything she talks about. So she talks good numbers and high numbers. And investment, but we never see these folks who's going to invest. When you look at Baltimore City as being the dangerous city in the country, where do you find folks that say, I want to invest and help build the city of Baltimore? We now have to save ourselves. That's the point that we at now. We can't
wait for the government to do it.
We have to save ourselves, and we have to work together and build together. Mm-hmm. And this is the way we're going to have to do it, because the truth of the matter is, when it's all over and said and done, the Preakness, even if they keep it or lose it or what have you, when it's time for our mayor to get out of office, she's going right back to her hometown. She's going right back to Philadelphia, where she can be herself. You know, thank me for letting me be myself again. You know, so
let me push back a little bit on that. So you don't think that she is emotionally invested in Baltimore?
I believe she really had her her seasons.
Yeah,
her season time. If you look at Stephanie Rawlings, who was in office as mayor, left out of the office of mayor, filthy rich, can say and do what she want to do, and you hardly ever see her anywhere in Baltimore or helping a school out or anything. You don't see her. You see her on the BET Awards or the Oscar or Grammys Awards or pictures of her posted that she's in Paris and London when folks barely can get money to get downtown to the subway, to the markets. So their hearts is it's not in there. I mean, their mouth is saying one thing, but their heart is elsewhere. And
I think
politics.
And you're right, Kenny. To a certain, I think statistics plays a great a part. It's imperative to understand the nature of their hearts, and we want to know. It's a must that we know that they are emotionally attached to the city of Baltimore.
The work speaks for them.
You
see the work that they're doing in the city, and it's
exactly
it's cheap work, and this work is not being done. If I love my city, then they're going to reflect. My love going to reflect on how the city looks.
Right, and I want to piggyback off of something that Kenny indicated. He said we have to become more responsible for our own actions in our community, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. Growing up, I'm a resident, I'm a product of the city of Baltimore. Growing up in the city of Baltimore, that's all I've experienced. When there was issues going on in our communities, we very seldom, or my grandmother and my mother and them very seldom called on any politicians to do anything. The only time they saw a politician come around when they were driving in their car with their speakers on the top of the car, asking for your support on election day. But when it came to rebuilding or building the community in which you live in, they were the ones who've done it. Mm-hmm. So my question is, I asked the people today, where is your integrity? Where do you stand today? And I'm talking about those individuals that are around my age limit. Those that are older than me that are still able to do things and can bring some things to the table. We have self-made millionaires, African-American self-made millionaires, but dare to do anything by lifting a finger to help bring our children out of a poverty-stricken mind.
That's a big burden to put on these big figures. You know what I mean? So you mentioned Stephanie Rollins. So she's an attorney first, the politician probably second. And she has like a consulting firm or something like that. So I mean, after they leave office, I think that we sometimes, even when they're in office, we put a lot on them and more falls on the community itself. I think we put too much in those people.
I think so.
Yeah, but this is what they know that going in the office.
Sure.
It's just like O'Malley. You haven't heard or seen him anywhere in our city of Baltimore. And it's like, if you love our city, O'Malley was the mayor of the city of Baltimore and then went to governor.
Yeah.
And so when he became governor, he knew what
he was in city council first. Remember, he was city council.
But he knew what shape that our city was in.
Yeah. Sure, I saw him not too long ago walking downtown and near, I guess we're a couple blocks from City Hall, and he was walking down the street. Most people didn't even recognize who he was, and he was walking, getting something to eat or whatever. My thing is that our biggest it's like you mentioned the kids in school. We mentioned Douglas, and we had the principal here a few months back. Right when that issue happened, we had him here, and the biggest thing that I see is that the kids come to school, and then some parents expect everything to be taught to those kids, but some of the basics that's supposed to be learned in the household, and the school is building blocks on that. Right. That foundation's not stable.
Yeah, absolutely.
But because we really as black folks, we know their respect and the respect of one another. I mean, even though when they leave out of the house it's different, or maybe, but it's like we have something that's greater than a college degree. When we know how to say thank you, you're welcome, yes sir, yes ma'am, how you doing or whatever. We learn those manners, and the children learns it at home as well. But when you say we put the burdens on these politics, but when they start the project, and what do we call a project? A project is something that you study. So when you put a bunch of people in Murphy homes and McCullough homes, and it was projects and Gilmore projects, and it was just a project that they was working on to see how they can get into the minds and how they can control the poor black people.
That's true.
So now that the project now became a really messed up project and it out of control, now they don't know how to put the pieces back together. So then they turn the table and say, you black folks don't know how to clean up behind yourself. You're lazy. You don't know how to take care of your houses. We know how to take care of our houses, but when you have slum landlords who don't come out to do the major work that need to be done into the house, the houses continue to fall, then the folks wind up moving out of the house, and the house be staying vacant, and then it starts crumbling, falling down.
It's already deteriorating.
Yeah, so we can't.
That's true.
And as renters, and like you say, Kenny, as renters, you don't have the necessary funds in order to put. Why should I want to take hundreds of dollars to put into a house that I don't own? However, but on the flip side of that, my mother rented, but my grandmother rented. However, they did what they did or could in order to maintain, and you're from that era, they did what they could to maintain that property.
Yeah, but Mr. Jimmy lives around the corner who was a carpenter.
And there you go. There you go.
They worked together, and
you could call on them, and they would come in.
But even before you go to that, and both y'all bringing up great points, but let's even go more basic than that. I drive in the car, walk down the street, I see people throw trash out the window of a car. Or walk down the street and throw it on the ground. I'm just talking about just trash. I ain't talking about no skills other than picking up trash.
It's the mindset.
So it's just like these basic things we not doing. And this is not just kids, adults do it too. Basic stuff like that. We can't even keep those things clean, but yet we steadily pointing at you do this and you do that, but what the job of the basic cleanliness is not happening.
And you're right, and that's what I was dealing with. It's called. I mentioned earlier about being re-educated.
Yes,
we have to be reprogrammed.
Yes,
through education, and I often talk about the revolutionists or the revolutionary or being revolutionized. Revolutionizing meaning the reconditioning or the resetting of our mindset. Bringing something into play that means something, changing your attitude, changing the way you think, changing the way you do things. Yes, I'm driving in the car and I happen to see somebody throw a McDonald's bag out the window, and it fuels me, it burns me up.
Yes.
And in my mind, I'm saying, what kind of mindset is that? I watch people walk over paper where they live and refuse to pick it up.
Yes.
That's sad. It's the mindset. It's that get, and I hate to use this terminology, but that ghetto mentality. People just don't want to do what's right. It's hard. Apostle Paul used the terminology. He said, the good that I desire to do, I do not, but that which I desire not to do, that I do. It is so easy for us to do things that shouldn't be in our nature to do.
Yeah, but when you look at schools like Carl Stokes School that already opened up and they wanted to shut down, which was teaching these young boys, young guys, how to respect one another, how to be the person that takes out the trash, how to keep their neighborhood clean, how to do things in your community. And when you have schools like this that's teaching our young folks that, then you have the folks on North Avenue want to shut it down because they want us to act like animals. They want us to tear up and mess up our community. When you see, like, again, a bunch of vacant houses. And it's so expensive to live in the city of Baltimore. I mean, it's very expensive
Yeah,
to
it
live
is.
in the city of Baltimore. So they keep raising the prices in the city of Baltimore. They keep raising the water bills and make it so hard for you to live in the city where women that only live off of $5,000
totally agree.
a year.
Totally agree.
$5,000 a year on social service. And they're struggling and they're selling their food stamps to get little Johnny a pair of shoes because you can't, I mean, you know, we don't have any money. And so when they closing down our schools, our kids not getting the proper education, you can go to Rosemont and you can go to Belmont and you talk about Black History during the Black History Month. Each school is teaching the same thing. No one is talking about our kings that was over in Africa. What we're talking about is Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, but we don't go back no further than that. You know, so we're just learning that was just black folks. We were just slaves. We went from slaves to rappers to football players, basketball players, and that's all. We're not going to go nowhere. Dogs know how to run and throw, you know, and catch, you know. So the way of controlling us is by just putting our minds into we're not going to be nothing. This is it. This is.
I mean, I agree with what you're saying. I just think that still we got to stop putting so much reliance on others to do. So every point that you made is valid. Mm-hmm. And as far as the curriculum or what they're teaching as far as that history, but we can't put it on them or other people to teach our history.
Yeah,
or our future.
Or education period. Because when you get a young kid to graduate from Douglas and go to maybe Coppin and graduate from Coppin,
right,
and then say, okay, all right, now I can be a lawyer. I done went to college 8 years and now I want to become a lawyer. But then the system look at it like, okay, everything you learned was great, but they taught greater in these other private schools or these other schools that's in the county, mm-hmm, that they learned greater things. That what you learned from graduating from your Douglas to Coppin, what you learned in Coppin about law, you should have learned that in the 12th grade. What these guys learned in college is way
so they're
beyond.
Teaching on the lower level. As opposed to other schools where, you know, but again, we have to look at.
Well, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I think to some extent,
some people think that though. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the perception with some people.
It's like dumb it down because like now, you only have to show up for school, and you still got a 50.
Well,
so
I
you
know
only got to get that 10% to get a 60 to pass, and you ain't even been in school all year.
Well, I know for me, when my children was growing up, you know, I've always taught them at home. I didn't rely on the public school system to give them everything.
They went to Baltimore City?
Yeah. I didn't rely on the public school system to give them everything. They went to Douglas High School, graduated from Douglas High School, mm-hmm, you know. But the fact of the matter is that you have to take the initiative as a parent and as a groomer to teach your kids, to instill into your kids, while they're home.
You can, but
when they were home, when mine was home, they spent time reading. Mm-hmm. You know, even on weekends, I would tell them, "Look, let's go. Let's go to the library." Yeah. We stayed down Enterprise.
You can do that, but what about Johnny and
I agree
and Miss Becky who have a 4th grade?
I totally agree.
At a 4th grade level.
But Kenny, think about it. There were a lot of our parents who operated off of a 4th grade level, off of a no grade level, but they learned through common sense. But they pushed us. So what we have to do,
you do more, and they wanted you to do more than them.
Exactly, they wanted you to become greater than what they were.
Yeah.
So you know, I think sometimes
that's not in the new generation now.
Well, that's true. You know, so that's why it takes role models like us. Mm-hmm. Brothers and sisters like us. That's why it's so imperative for us to encourage them to come out. When we're out there on those street corners, the first thing we do, we try to encourage others to come on out and be a part of what we're doing. Because we realize that we know the word of God says it take two, or, where 2 or 3 has gathered in his name, he'll come out and he'll stand in the midst with us. But, we want a collective body. Because one thing about the black community, and we talked about this before, I believe maybe it might have been me and Brother John, we talked about this. We talked about how you have to set an example or be an example in order to set an example. Because that's the only way our community is going to see us. I remember during the political season, the Mitchells ran every political season, they ran a successful campaign. And how they did it was the neon signs. Even though that it wasn't a problem then, but they would post signs all throughout the district. When you walk out that door, you see a neon sign with Mitchell on there. And they didn't even use a picture. All they used was the name. We said, we know that the Mitchell name carried. But at the same token, a lot of the older Mitchells has somewhat went off the scene. Then you had the newer Mitchells coming.
Right, but them old Mitchells, they put in the work.
They put in the work, yeah. So what I'm saying is this here.
That brand.
One thing about African people, about black folk, we are generated off of by what we see. So if we go outside and we see a bunch of flyers posted everywhere, then in our mind, we're going to vote for that person because that person is the better candidate for the job.
Yeah.
You see, that's how we're programmed.
Yeah.
We're programmed by what we see.
Yeah, when you go in that booth and you had to choose, you see that name, you done seen it all over the place. So
it's hard for a good candidate, someone who really cares, to get into the seat to represent the people. In 1998, I ran for political office for the 44th Legislative District. And I ran with no money. But the people did come out and vote. Didn't have enough money, but they did come out and vote. I didn't generate enough votes in order to win that election, but the people who came behind me who had the money, they actually won that seat.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter of it is, I ran a grassroots campaign. And going back to what you said, Kenny, is that these politicians, once they're out of office, they living off of their $1 million, living off of their yachts and so on, etc. Just hypothetically saying, going to Paris. Now, if I could do that, I would.
Absolutely.
But at the same token, my first love would be to make sure that the people are all right while I'm in office.
Yeah,
and when I leave office, I want to know that there are some things that has been set in order whereby these individuals can benefit from as a community and as a concerned people who live in those communities.
And Schaefer, he did that, as a city councilor to a mayor to a governor. And even when he was out of office, you still would see him around in the community.
Well, he was a community person.
He loved Baltimore.
He was a community. Yeah, he was definitely a community person. But the fact of the matter is that we need people that's going to be concerned about what's going on in our communities. This is why I don't even call on politicians when I'm doing something. I don't call on city council. I don't call on the mayor. I don't call on them to come out and represent or to show, because guess what? We are there. We are there, and we're the ones that's voicing the opinion. And why do I want them to come out anyway? So it can look good on their resume. So they can,
right.
Yeah, so they can go back and say, well, we showed up at so and so, and we stood there. No, I don't need you to just show up. I need you to be in that seat in your office, writing resolutions, figuring out ways how we're going to put an end to this and how we're going to build this up. This is something that they're not doing. So what we have to do as spokesmen, the people need us, brothers like you and I,
they need
that will get out on those street corners, not afraid to pray for these individuals, and also not afraid to voice our opinion against the injustice that has robbed our city.
And the thing is that I don't even fear those guys out there. I'm out there with them. I'm praying with them. I'm giving them information, finding folks, getting them into treatment and stuff like that. Just doing everything possible I can do to help the people in our city of Baltimore. And I don't fear them, but I fear our mayor, our councilman, I fear our city leaders. I fear because of what I'm pushing out there and helping out people and open the eyes to those whose eyes have been shut and minds open their minds and things. I know that I'm putting myself in jeopardy. I know that I'm putting
yourself in risk
harm's way.
because of what you're doing. Yeah.
And sometimes I mean, you know, I don't, you know, I don't even know if I'm gonna make it home at times, you know, because I'm not out there looking over my shoulder because of the drug man or the stick up man, but because the people who supposed to be leading our city, I'm looking over my shoulder because of them, because I'm that person who's in the way.
And going against the status quo.
Yeah.
What I've enjoyed this conversation. We up against the clock. How can people stay in touch with y'all? And it seems like that y'all got a lot of things going on.
They call Charles.
I gotta have you come back more often. You know what I'm saying? The chop up.
Well, you know, we're on Facebook.
Okay.
You know, we're definitely Charles Neal. You know, Charles W. Neal Facebook. You know, I'm open to the public pretty much. Kenny's the same way. He's on Facebook. You know, and usually what we're doing, man, we're basically trying to make some serious connections. You know, with the people, and we urge the people to contact us. You know, my phone number. You know, they need somebody to talk to, and I urge young dealers out there, young gang members. You know, I urge them to contact me. If you need someone to talk to, pick up the phone and contact me. You know, we're dealing with it Glock by Glock, not block by block, but Glock by Glock.
Okay.
Because that's what they're using. And that's what taking lives. They're not thinking. So we urge them to contact us. Pick up that phone and dial 240-543-4820. Or go on Facebook and under Charles Wendell Neal, and you can find me. And we'll be more than happy to reach out to you and talk with you. We've had several people to reach out to me through Facebook or inbox me and say, Brother Charles, look, this is what I need, man. You know, how can you assist me with this? And sometimes it's just looking for somebody to listen to.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's not all in what you say all the time. Just listen.
Just be in the era. And they can reach me at 443-531-1408. Again, that's 443-531-1408. You can find me on Facebook under Kenny, Kenny, and last name Ebron, Eebron. Yeah, we willing to help in any kind of way that we can help, as long as it's something positive to upbuild our community, upbuild our city of Baltimore, and make Baltimore great again.
And also, I would like to add what Kenny said. You know, I want to piggyback off of him. Yeah, we want to be out there in support of the city of Baltimore. So if you are doing rallies, if we can be there to assist you in any way, shape, or form, reach out to us on Facebook, and we will try our best to be there. You know, by the grace of God, we will try our best to be there to support you in whatever area that you need our support in, because we want to work with the residents. We want to make sure that our city can come back to the place where it used to be. I had people like Eddie Conway back in the 70s who took me up under their wing and groomed me and told me, look, this is where you live at, boy. And you need to do whatever it takes in order to make sure that your neighborhood is intact. It was people like him. So we want to do the same thing to those individuals that are willing to allow us to come into their space and throw our support behind whatever it is they're doing. And as Kenny said, as long as it's positive.
Yeah, I think that's great. That's a great note to end on. Definitely thank y'all for coming. And I definitely want you to come back. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
we're glad to.
Yeah, we're glad to.
So as I've said, many people in Baltimore are, very emotionally involved in the Preakness staying here in Baltimore. And I just believe that it is time for it to go. The Stronach Group, let me be clear. The Stronach Group owns both Pimlico and Laurel Park. In recent years, they have moved to consolidate its horse racing operations to Laurel. 90% of the money that they get, they put into Laurel. The Pimlico racetrack is a dump. It's a dump. Catherine Pugh said, the mayor, while the Maryland Stadium Authority report put a $424 million price tag on the demolition and rebuilding of the racetrack here in Baltimore, the grandstand and other facilities, redoing the tracks would account for just $29 million of that cost. And as I said, it is a dump. As for the future of the Preakness in Baltimore, the mayor has made revitalizing Pimlico and the Park Heights neighborhood around it one of her top priorities. But let's keep this real. People going to Pimlico, those people from out of town, they're not spending their money in the Park Heights community. They're not. So while she wants to grab Pimlico and hold it here for the greater good of the city of Baltimore, the bigger issue is the Park Heights community and making that more attractive to businesses. So it's unclear if they modernize it, if that would they don't want to stay. So let them go. We can put something else in the area where Pimlico Racetrack is. The House Ways and Means Committee met last week in Annapolis to consider two bills that will either keep the Preakness in Baltimore or move operations to Laurel. Let's be clear. It is 2019. The horse race industry would not support two major racetracks within 50 miles of each other. The demand is not there. We don't need it in both cities, one or the other. And Laurel, you can have that. I think the best thing for Baltimore to do long term is to move on from horse racing sports, redevelop the property where Pimlico Racetrack now sits into something else. Put something bigger and better in that location. Park Heights does not need to beg the Stronach family to keep their crappy races in Baltimore any longer. We good. We don't need it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at The Dom and K Show, at Radioonfire. I'm here, The Dom and K Show. Weekdays, 9 a.m., weekends, 3 p.m. If you miss any episodes, radioonfire.com/shows. I'll see you guys tomorrow.